We did the Easter crock pot. Now we're doing regular Easter sides, and I have a bonus at the end for you. Stay tuned. What to do with your leftover ham. We've got some really good ones here, and I'm starting with one of my favorites. This is crispy smashed Brussels, okay? So we're gonna cut off the little end of the Brussels sprouts and then cut them in half. This is so easy to do. Now, there's a couple different ways you can go about this next step. You can actually take these and just microwave them for a couple of minutes, or you can do them over on the stovetop. I've got about 2 inches of water in a pot over on the stovetop, and that's how we're gonna do ours. So if you have a steaming insert thing for a pot on your stove, that's probably even a better option. The one that I have is for a much larger pot, and I just don't feel like getting all that out and dealing with it. So just a little bit of water in the bottom of the pot there. If you didn't see the last video that I did on Easter recipes, those are crock pot Easter recipes, and I made a Brussels sprouts recipe in that one as well. And I talked about the different types of ways that you can make Brussels sprouts that make them so much better than maybe however you grew up eating them. Y'all, like the air fryer, this way right here that makes them crispy, adding a really good dressing to them like the one in that video, which has the balsamic glaze. They are so delicious if you cook them the right way. And as soon as that water is really simmering, we're gonna put these in there and just let them soften up. It takes like 3 minutes at the most. It's really not a long process. Also, I have my oven preheating to 425 degrees because they're gonna get put onto a baking sheet, and that's where the smashed process, the crispy process, that's gonna come in. All right, about 6 to 8 minutes after they've been in there, they should be ready to go. So we're gonna take that lid off, take them out, and transfer them to a baking sheet that is covered in parchment paper. Also, while I'm doing this, you do not have to cut your Brussels in half. You can actually leave them whole. This is just a preference of ours that we've found, but you can leave them whole and smash them, and it is gonna get the same effect. So if you would like to save yourself a couple of minutes, you can absolutely do it that way. I put a towel down because I don't like the noise that my pan makes on the counter. So let's just take these and kind of spread them around. I like to flip mine to where the cut side is down. It's not gonna make a difference though. I just find them easier to smash that way, okay? This might be the best way to make Brussels sprouts, like not even kidding. Okay, that's looking pretty good, pretty good. My towel's right here. Now, we are going to take a flat bottom glass and we're gonna go through and just smash them. That's it, you just smash them down. Okay, it's gonna almost form, uh-oh, they were sticking. It's gonna almost form like a single layer once you get them all smashed, depending on the size sheet pan that you're using. I think my oven is getting pretty close. It was close to 400 when I checked a minute ago, so we should hear that in a second, ready to go. Amazon delivery must be here. And the oven's ready. Also, you don't need an alarm, just get a black lab. She'll let you know when anything is happening, literally anything. I almost always forget one because I am not the type of person that works in order. So like you would think you would go down the line one way or another. And I feel like I smash them so randomly that I have to look back at the end and be like, did I get all of them? Okay, so these all look good. Now, you can drizzle, let me watch this. You can drizzle with olive oil, but my friends, Mandy, Mackenzie, and Jessica got me this really cool oil dispenser thing it was part of my birthday gift because they know I love gadgets like this. So we're gonna prime this and then I'm just gonna spray it with this oil. I'll ask Mandy where she got it and make sure it's linked in the description box because it really is a cool thing. I really like it. Fresh garlic is really, really good to use on these, but if you wanna go the really easy route, I would tell you to just use garlic powder. Now, for the sake of making sure that these are as amazing as I've told you guys they are, we're going to use the minced garlic and just do our very best to kind of move it all over. We are going to add some onion powder. You don't have to add this, but I do think it adds another element of flavor that is so good. You guys know when I'm doing something like this on a sheet pan, I like to season from up high, and it makes sure that you don't have any clumping in one specific spot. Also, salt, you gotta have salt for these, okay? Now, let me tell you, I've used it a lot lately, so I'm not gonna use it today because I know you guys are probably tired of seeing it. The truffle salt, okay? Let me just show you. You know, we're gonna use it. You don't have to use truffle salt, okay? This is by Truff. It's so good. If you like truffle, it's so good. You don't have to use this though. Just use regular salt. I'm just enhancing it with this truffle flavor. So again, really high, just a light season because we did already add a little bit of salt. I also love adding paprika to this. It's mostly for color. It's not even necessarily so much for flavor, but it does add a little bit of smokiness as far as the flavor goes. Man, that salt smells so good. If you wanna take these over the top, if you wanna make them a little bit spicy, add some cayenne. That's just gonna add just a little bit of kick. You don't have to, but leave this out. If you're not a fan of spice, just don't add the cayenne, okay? That was probably an 1/8 teaspoon for the whole thing. Now at this point, you can toss these if you want. I never really feel like it's necessary, but if you feel like you didn't get everything evenly dispersed, you might wanna do that. I will say, if you cut yours in half though, if you toss them, they're gonna fall apart. If you leave them whole, they probably won't fall apart quite as easy. All right, we are going to bake these for 10 minutes at 425, and then we've got another thing we're gonna add. Okay, these have been in there for 10 minutes. Now we are going to take some Parmesan cheese and sprinkle on the top. Then we're gonna put them back in for another 10 minutes. The cheese is gonna melt on the top. It's gonna get nice and crispy. Everything is going to be so good. Overall, maybe like a 1/4 cup or so. It doesn't need to be too much. Okay, let's put these back in for about 10 more minutes. Okay, let's put these in a serving dish. Also, FYI, my favorite way to reheat these is in the air fryer. So if you are thinking you're gonna make some, and I mean, you can reheat them on the stove just like this. That's totally fine too. Come on. But in the air fryer, they reheat so well. You can top these with a little bit of thyme. That's delicious. Give one a try. Such good flavor. The crispier, the better. If you feel like they're not crispy enough, let them go in there a little bit longer and you will not regret it. They are so, so, so good. I love the addition of that truffle salt, but if you don't have it, that's totally okay. But if you like truffle, I definitely suggest giving this a try because it is very good and we use it on so many things. I need to start this next recipe by saying, if you can find the tri-colored carrots, this recipe is over the top because the presentation of it is just so much prettier than your traditional, just your parsnip and your carrots. So the tri-colored carrots have a white carrot and a purple carrot in there. I have not been able to find them at a traditional grocery store, but I have found them at Trader Joe's. So if you have a Trader Joe's near you, definitely check those out. We need to start by peeling our carrots. And I'm also gonna peel the parsnip. I love root vegetables. If you guys have been here for a while, you know that. You know that we are major root vegetable fans here. There's just something about taking something like a carrot, which honestly we eat a lot of in our house. It's already a vegetable that we enjoy. Things like potatoes, already a vegetable that we enjoy. Taking them up a notch by roasting them, by adding something like a brown butter sauce, that's delicious. We love a brown butter sauce, you guys. So you could make a brown butter to go on top of these after you've roasted them. That would be so good. Now, as we cut these, they can just go directly onto the baking sheet. Ooh, that was loud. Onto the baking sheet. Okay, I'm gonna cut them. I want them all to be roughly the same size. So we're doing carrot sticks or stick size. I don't know what you call these sizes, to be honest. I've said this in another video too, but I'm gonna try and make them all around the same size. I'm only making a small amount because we only need them for the 4 of us, but this is one of those recipes. Just make a bunch of it. If you need more, just make more. The tri-colored carrots are all around this size right here. I love that because I don't even cut them. I peel them and I put them right on the tray as is, and they're so cute. You can just drizzle with olive oil again, but I am gonna use my olive oil thing here. Sprinkle with a little bit of salt. You can add pepper too if you like. Just remember to sprinkle from up high so nothing gets clumped in one little area. I'm gonna crank up my oven to 450 degrees. So this is gonna be a hot one. You're gonna roast these. Now, depending on how many you have, the size that you cut these, it could be anywhere from 25 minutes to 40 minutes. So I cut mine pretty thin. I'm thinking it's gonna go in between 25 and 30 minutes. I'm gonna set my timer to the 25-minute mark, just see where we are, okay? But like I said, if you get the whole ones that are a little bit smaller, it might take a little bit longer for those because they're not cut. Okay, while those vegetables are roasting, we're gonna make the herb butter that's gonna go with them. So I have about a tablespoon of butter here. I'm gonna take some thyme off of the stem and add that, maybe a teaspoonish. I'm not really measuring, you guys know. We're just seeing how much I can get here. One thing that I love having is fresh thyme. I mean, if you're not new here, you know, we use fresh thyme so often. I think it adds the most beautiful color and garnish and flavor. You guys have seen me use thyme and other things from my garden so many times. It is so frequently that I go in, and I'll even say it in a video that I'm getting it from my garden. I love the convenience of being able to grow this stuff inside the house, first of all. Second of all, no pesticides, not worried about any bugs or anything like that in there, which is fabulous. And honestly, sometimes for lunch, we just go clip things off of the garden that we want and we make this nice, really big salad. I actually am currently changing some things out that just better suit our family. I've ordered a lot more herbs. I don't know about you guys, but I am notorious for ordering herbs from the grocery store, and then 4 days later, when I'm ready to make whatever recipe it was that I ordered those for, they're bad. But if I grow them in my garden, they're good until I'm ready to use them. So a lot more coming. You guys know I'm not getting rid of my thyme because that's my favorite. I love the fact that my son will just come in and sometimes he wants a snack. He literally will just go straight to the garden and pull little tomatoes off. But the availability of the things that we use regularly and just having them so close to the kitchen, it's awesome. Also, I don't know about you guys, but we've held off on planting our outdoor garden. You know, we usually do the indoor and we have the outdoor during the spring and summer. But again, tonight we have an under 30-degree temperature, so I didn't want to go ahead and plant when I knew there was going to be another freeze. Now we're still going to do an outdoor garden, but the convenience of having this all indoors and not having to worry about the drop in temperatures and the bugs and the deer and the rabbits and my dog getting all in the garden, that is definitely convenient. They did just release a new version of the garden and it lowered the price of the one that I currently have. If you would like to get a garden yourself, check out the link that I have in my description box and you can get one and grow your own plants inside the house as well. I've also got some parsley that I'm going to finely chop here using my herb scissors. If you don't have those, that's totally fine. You can just chop up some parsley. They are listed in my Amazon store and they will also be listed in the description box of this video. Anything that I use in a video, I try my best to link it in the description box so that you guys have access to it. Once the root vegetables are done, you can toss them in an herb butter and it just takes it over the top. Okay, my vegetables roasted for 35 minutes. I feel like that's the right amount for these. You could probably go a little bit longer, but some of them are starting to get a good amount of color, so I didn't want to go too long and then they get overdone. All right, so all you need to do is take that herb butter that we made and just add it. It's gonna melt because these are hot, and then we're just gonna toss them in that herb butter. It's so good. So once that butter melts, you just toss them around a little bit. Y'all, oh my goodness. This is one of my favorite things. I'm gonna try a parsnip first. So delicious with that herb butter. Carrot, so good. I'm telling you, if you can find the ones that have the purple, it's even better. Not because of the taste, but because all those different colors, because you have the purple, you have orange, you've got the like yellowish color, you've got the herbs which offer the green. It's so pretty with that purple in there too. So we're making some sweet potato biscuits, and I got multiple sweet potatoes out because we are actually gonna make another sweet potato recipe too. The first thing I'm gonna do is peel these, and I'm gonna cube them in the same way that I would a regular potato if I were gonna boil and make mashed potatoes. Now, you don't have to do it this way. You can actually just cook your sweet potato and then, you know, peel out the inside of it once it's cooked, and it'll be nice and mashed. So overall, all we really need for the sweet potato biscuits is about 3/4 of a cup of mashed sweet potatoes. I have some water over on the stove that it's starting to boil. So we're gonna put this in there once that's ready. While my sweet potatoes are cooking, I'm gonna go ahead and prep the rest of the dough so that it will be completely ready to go and we can just move on with this. Whenever I am making biscuits, I like to have a fork. It just makes things easier for some reason. So I have 2 1/4 cup of flour here in this bowl. We are gonna add 3.5 teaspoons of baking powder. 1 teaspoon, here we go. 1, 2, 3.5. Baking powder, not baking soda. 2 teaspoons of sugar. 1 teaspoon of salt. Let's just kind of whisk that together a little bit. You can use an actual whisk. I always opt for a fork with this. I just feel like it's so easy. Oh, my oven is preheating to 450 degrees, so it is not a low temperature for the oven, okay? Keep that in mind. I've got my baking sheet. I need to add some parchment paper to that. Let's do that while I'm thinking about it. Oh no. All right, I'm out of parchment paper. I mean, there was like a sliver left, so we're gonna have to go without it. It's gonna be okay. I'll just have to clean the pan a little bit extra. A little bit of extra work for me. Now, we have 6 tablespoons of butter, and it's cold. I just got it out. I'm gonna cut this into little pieces into the batter here. If you have a pastry cutter, this will make this process so easy. Ours broke, like every time I use it. Let me see. I think we ended up throwing it away. The end would pop off of ours mid using the pastry cutter, so I think we just ended up tossing it. A lot of times I will use butter that is stored in the freezer for this because the butter is super cold and it makes the cutting process really easy. Okay, so 6 tablespoons of butter cut into little pieces. That's now in there. Okay, so the easiest way to do this, if you do not have a pastry cutter, is your fingers, okay? So you just start to kind of crumble that butter into the flour mixture. I bet that you could make these with like a Biscuit mix too, not even using like completely from scratch like this. All right, for the potatoes, I'm gonna drain off the water. I actually like to go back into that same pot. Because it has a flat bottom, it makes it really easy to use my potato masher to mash it up. These mash so easy. You need about 3/4 of a cup of mashed sweet potatoes for this recipe. I'm gonna let them cool for just a minute before I add in the buttermilk. I'm adding 3/4 of a cup. We're gonna make sure this gets well combined. All right, now we're going to slowly start to add the wet mixture into the dry. You don't have to combine it all the way. We're gonna work with our hands in just a minute. Okay, I'm gonna take some flour on my hands. You could actually use like butter or something if you wanna do that too. Make sure your work area is nice and clean. Then you kinda liberally flour your work surface here, okay? Then we're going to put the dough onto the counter and put some flour on the top of it. Start to press. You might want to add a little bit more flour so it doesn't stick to your hands. Pressing out. Now you can roll this out with a rolling pin if you want to. I never feel like it's necessary. About 3/4 of an inch thickness. And then you're gonna get your baking sheet. You need a biscuit cutter. I use a cookie cutter. Actually, I wonder if I have my smaller one available. I'm gonna spray my pan since we don't have parchment paper. Also, I did get the smaller, thing, biscuit cutter, cookie cutter thing, and just continue. Cut as many as you're able to. You may need to reform the dough at the end. I will have to. I mean, you're probably gonna reform the dough at the end. We're gonna put these in the freezer for about 5 minutes and let them really harden up. Then we're gonna make an egg yolk mixture that's gonna go on the top. We're gonna brush the tops of these, then they're gonna go into the oven. I have an egg yolk here. Let's add a teaspoon of water. I'm gonna brush each one of these with a little bit of that egg wash on the top. That was a lot of it on that first one, but that's okay. Okay, my oven is preheated to 450 degrees. These are gonna bake for about 13 to 14 minutes. We are going to turn the pan at the halfway mark, just kind of like rotating it in the oven, just to make sure nothing gets overdone and everything cooks nice and evenly. So 13 to 14 minutes. I'm gonna make up a butter to go with our sweet potatoes. Now, you can just serve these with regular butter. It doesn't have to be anything special, but I'm just gonna take some butter here, add in a touch of maple syrup. I also like to add a touch of cinnamon and mix it together. That's it. Okay, now obviously I'm just making a really small amount of this butter, but you could make a huge amount, whip it together in your KitchenAid mixer or with your blender, and it's gonna make like a nice whipped butter. That's a great option too. I mean, look how good these look, guys. Oh my goodness. All right, let's give these biscuits a try. The butter's just melting on them. Those are really tasty, but let me tell you, that maple cinnamon butter makes all the difference. I don't even know that I would make them without it. As far as the sweet potato goes, it's the smallest hint of sweet potato that gives it just a little bit of sweetness, but they are really, really good. I love the texture and the consistency of them, really tasty. We're gonna make some sweet potato stacks. Now, even if you don't like sweet potatoes, you can still make potato stacks. You don't really wanna make a sweet version of that with regular potatoes, but you can do a savory version. So you can still do butter with the herbs and all that kind of stuff. You just wanna skip the sweet part of this. So you're gonna skip the syrup, skip all the sweet stuff. But you can still make them, okay? So don't think that you have to skip this recipe if you're not a fan of sweet potatoes. I went ahead and peeled our potatoes for the sake of time, and you guys just watching me peel potatoes, which is pretty boring. I'm gonna cut off the end, and I'm gonna use a slicer so that we can get roughly the same size slices. And I mean, I am like not great at using this thing. So we're just gonna peel these until we get all the slices that we need. Now, the full recipe calls for 2 pounds of potatoes. I don't know that we're gonna need the full 2 pounds. We'll see how this goes. Oh, I also forgot to mention, when you're finding the potatoes, you wanna try and get them around the same size in diameter, so the stacks are about the same size. Before we continue on with our sweet potato stacks, I do need to make some stuff over on the stovetop. Let's turn our heat on to medium. I've got about 5 tablespoons of butter, and I'm gonna go ahead and just toss in that rosemary. As it melts, it's all gonna kind of work together. While that's working over there, let's get our muffin tin ready. Ooh, this just reminded me that I need to go put my sheets on my bed because I washed them today. All right, let's spray. I'm gonna start laying 2 rounds in the bottom of each cup. I just wanna sprinkle a little bit of salt into each one. We're gonna have some salt over in our butter mixture that we're making, but we wanna make sure we get a little bit kind of in between as well. Continue the stacking. I'm gonna add 2 more to each one. Really, you can make these stacks as big as you want to. Oh, I can hear that butter. Okay, the butter is working. I want this to brown up a bit. So we're gonna keep it on a medium-low heat, but I do want it to be infused with that rosemary flavor, and we do want it to simmer just a bit because I'm making more of like a brown butter. So once you start to see the brown bits in the butter, that's when you're gonna pull it. Okay, sprinkle with a little bit more salt. Okay, as you can see, I am working multiple angles here. Got the brown butter over there, got the sweet potatoes over here. All the things are happening. Okay. That's about what we're getting. Okay, I'm looking and waiting for little brown flecks. Ooh, I should be careful because now it's falling apart. but we are gonna reserve the rosemary for garnish. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and take it out just so we don't lose any more of the little sprigs. Still waiting on those brown flecks. It should be any minute now. You could add some thyme. That would be really delicious in here. Even some parsley would be pretty good. Add some of those savory herbs, and you can use this with your regular potatoes instead of sweet potatoes. Kind of hard to see on camera, but you can start to see some of that brown color. There it is underneath. That is what you're looking for. Once you get to that, go ahead and turn your heat off. Oh man, this looks so good. Yes. See that brown color? That is what you're looking for. Okay, let's add in about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, about a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, add about a 1/4 cup of maple syrup. We're just stirring this together until it's nice and smooth. We're just combining it, that's it. We're gonna take some and just drizzle over the top of each one of these. Anything that's left over, we're gonna reserve because we can drizzle it over the top once they're done cooking, like in serving. If there's anything left, we'll see. So I'm using a 1/2 tablespoon-ish for each one. Cover this with foil. These are gonna bake at 375 for about 25 to 30 minutes, really making sure that those potatoes soften up nicely. Then we're gonna top them with some toasted pecans. So while these are in the oven, we're gonna go ahead and get those pecans toasted. It literally takes seconds to do that. I have my heat on medium. I'm just using these pecan chips, and I'm gonna put some here into this pan. You can add some butter to the pan if you want. I'm just gonna dry toast mine, and this is gonna take like 2 or 3 minutes. You do wanna be careful not to burn them. I have done that before because I walk away and I forget, and then they're just really not good. Okay, the potato stacks just came out of the oven. So you can see they shrink down quite a bit. We're gonna put these back into the oven because I do want them to broil for just a couple minutes and get like a crispiness on top. However, I wanna try something. I'm gonna try to double stack them, the ones that I already have, and just see what happens, okay? I kind of feel like a taller stack would be really pretty, so I'm just gonna try it. I mean, it's Easter, so we're going a little more extra than maybe what we normally would. Probably on a typical night, I would just serve these just like so. Okay, let's put these back in. I'm gonna broil so we can get some color on the top of these. Just for a couple of minutes. We're just watching to see if we can get the tops to brown up just a little bit. I feel like these are honestly too pretty to eat, but we obviously have to try one. I mean, I'm just gonna try a little sliver off the top because they're just so pretty and I wanna serve them at dinner. Wow. Wow. There aren't even words. Wow. That is so good. So the only thing is, I don't know that you need to cover it with foil the whole time. I think that you could take the foil off halfway through and then it would add to like a crispiness of this, which I think could be nice, adding another element of texture. The flavor, y'all, you can taste the rosemary infused butter in there. So delicious. It's so good. Before I give you this bonus content, I have to tell you, maybe it's just our family, but I feel like the majority of families have deviled eggs at Easter. You need to go check out my deviled egg video because I did 4 recipes, different deviled egg recipes. They are going to level up this year's deviled eggs. Make sure you check out that video. First of all, watch the bonus recipe, then check out the deviled eggs. So good. I had my leftover ham bone that still had quite a bit of meat on it, and I took the ham bone, placed it here into the crock pot, covered it with water, and then I set it on high in the crock pot for about 3 to 4 hours. Really what that did is pull off pretty much all of the rest of that meat. So now we have a delicious bone broth for our soup that we're gonna be making. And look at this meat. This, y'all, I don't really like ham. I think we've talked about this here before, but when you cook it down a lot, and it almost gets like a deep, rich brown, that's when I'll eat it. I am not interested in the ham that comes to the Thanksgiving or the Easter table or the Christmas table. I'm really only interested in it after you cook it down quite a bit, or the burnt ends. That's the parts that I will eat. I wanna pull out all the pieces of ham that are on here so that I can cut them up, pull off any fatty pieces that we don't want in this soup, and then we can make the soup. So I'm actually doing this tonight. I'm gonna make the soup tomorrow. So this can go to the side. We are definitely going to be using that broth tomorrow. One reason that I like to do this the night before is because this broth I'll put in the refrigerator and let it sit overnight. And then tomorrow I'll be able to skim the fat off of the top because the fat will have risen and hardened at the top. Now, if you don't care about that, if you're fine with a fattier broth, it's totally fine. But look, I mean, it's falling apart. That is what I like. This is the only way that I like ham. The next thing I'm gonna prep, just so that tomorrow goes smoothly in the morning, because I actually have to be at church earlier than everyone else, I am going to just go ahead and cut these potatoes into rough, I don't know, maybe 1 inch or so cubes. They don't have to be perfect, obviously. I'm using 4 decently large russet potatoes, and you can peel yours if that's your preference. You don't have to keep the skin on. We just don't care. It doesn't matter to us either way. Another thing you can add to this is celery and carrot. And I think both are really good. I don't have any celery right now. We actually used it just the other night when I made chicken noodle soup. But my daughter has suddenly decided that although she loves carrots, will eat them raw all day, any day, no issue with carrots, she doesn't like them cooked. So I'm gonna leave them out of this one. I did put them in the chicken noodle soup the other day and just said, you know, sometimes you just have to deal with it. I'm gonna put my potatoes away. We're gonna put the broth that we have away. The ham is already in the refrigerator. But while I was cutting these, I actually thought of something and I wanted to share it with you. This does not need to be a 2-day process. This is just the way that I'm doing it to save myself the time tomorrow morning. But honestly, you can throw all of this in the crock pot. I'm talking like the bone, the meat that's on it, water, your potatoes, throw it all in there and just let it cook. Just like that. You know, it doesn't have to be separated out the way that I'm doing it. I just happened to wake up Saturday morning and think, oh, it would be nice to have this tomorrow. Let me just go ahead and get a head start on it. So that's what I did today, but please don't feel like it needs to be this big, drawn out 2-day process. It's just the way that I went about it this time. Okay, so you can see here, when I take this out of the refrigerator, you can see that layer of fat that has settled onto the top. So all I do is take a spoon or something like that and scrape that off the top. Again, you don't have to do this. I just personally like to do it because it cuts down the fat content of the soup. We're also gonna add in the potatoes that we cut from yesterday, and we need to add in the ham. And we're gonna put this on low and just let it cook the whole time that we're at church. All right, we just got home from church. The soup has been cooking since this morning. Let's finish this up so we can eat lunch. Okay, I'm gonna take our potato masher because I like it when some of the potatoes are mashed up a bit. We are going to add in some half and half, and this is just gonna add a bit of a richness to it. So I know we pulled off a lot of that fat, but you're gonna add a little bit back in here with the half and half. And then I'm also gonna pull a little bit out, so just a couple tablespoons out, because I want to mix it with, we're mixing with tapioca flour, but basically mixing it with cornstarch, and that's gonna give it a thickness. So we mix it with that warm liquid or that hot liquid that's in here, and then add it all back in after it's really, really combined. Now, another thing that I am going to add is from my garden, and it is called tatsoi. And we added this to a soup the other day and it was really delicious. So I'm gonna add some into this and just let it wilt, just to add a little bit more color. Stir all of that together. And then I'm gonna put the lid on so that the cornstarch or the tapioca flour can help to thicken that up. All right, we're gonna add some cheese because I have it already shredded and I think that it would be a good addition. So I believe this one is Parmesan and it was almost empty. And then we also have a little bit of habanero cheese left. I'm gonna add that in, but feel free to add whatever kind of cheese you like. I think a cheddar would be really delicious. I mean, obviously cheddar goes with ham really well, goes with potatoes really well. Just stir all this together and then we are ready to eat. Now, right off the bat, without even tasting it, I already know something that I would change. I would add more potatoes, but it's because I'm a huge potato fan. It's actually probably my favorite thing when I think about it. I love potatoes always, so I would probably add a few more just to make it a little more potatoey. There's a lot of ham in here.
Is it hot? Is it raw?
I don't know, I haven't tried it.
You tasted it and you were like...
No, I said right off the bat, without even tasting it, I would add more potatoes.
Not me.
You wouldn't add more potatoes? He's a guy, he wants all the meat. I want all the potatoes. Good flavor though, really good flavor.
Yeah.
Such an easy way to use up that leftover ham. No matter the holiday, when you have ham left over, just use it in something like this. So perfect, especially on a little bit of a chilly night, which is tonight. Our verse today comes from Acts 10:43. All the prophets testify about him that everyone who believes in him receives forgiveness of sins through his name. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Go check out my deviled eggs video. You're not gonna wanna miss that one. And if you need more Easter inspiration, check out the video that I have linked right here. You are going to love that one and you're gonna get even more Easter recipes. Have a great week.